The F-150 Lightning is here, and it is an amazing electric pickup truck. Owners are raving over it, journalists are praising it, and Ford can't make enough of them to satisfy the demand. One thing that everyone seems to be talking about is how inexpensive it is to recharge the F-150 Lightning as compared to a gasoline or diesel version of Ford's F-150. So we're going to take a deep dive and look at exactly what it costs to charge the F-150 Lightning. But I'm warning you ahead of time, this isn't an easy subject to tackle. And that's because there's so many different ways you can charge the F-150 Lightning, and electricity rates vary around the country. It also depends on where and when you charge your electric vehicle. If you're using at-home charging station, if you're charging in public, all the different networks have different prices, all that stuff. We're going to try to make sense out of it next. But first, don't forget, click that big red subscribe button at the bottom of this video so you don't miss any upcoming content here on State of Charge. So before we get deep into the weeds, I want to explain, I'm going to be talking about what it costs to charge my F-150 Lightning extended range battery pack here today. Now, Ford also sells a standard range battery pack that has a smaller battery. And while a single recharging event might cost less for a standard range battery pack, over time, it's going to cost the same because the standard range battery pack and extended range battery pack Lightnings have about the same efficiency. So it's kind of like having the same car with a 25-gallon fuel tank and one with a 20-gallon fuel tank. Over the course of a year, you're going to pay the same for gas. It's just that you'll have to stop at a gas station more frequently with the smaller tank. And that's the case with the standard range battery pack. It's going to cost you the same to recharge it. It's just you're going to have to plug it in more frequently. So the way batteries go, they're measured in kilowatt hour. So the standard range battery pack has a 98 kilowatt hour battery pack. Extended range has a 131 kilowatt hour battery pack. So what this costs me to charge is 131 kilowatt hour times what I pay per kilowatt hour. And that's going to vary greatly depending on where you charge. Now, some public charging stations charge by the time instead of by the kilowatt hour. We're going to get into that a little bit later, but in the beginning now, we're just going to focus on how much you pay for electricity versus the size of the battery pack. And we're going to cover at-home charging first because, quite honestly, that is the most convenient and most frequent place where people recharge their electric vehicles. More than 90% of electric vehicle recharging is done at the home. So we're going to get into home charging first. All right, so I'm in my garage now charging the F-150 Lightning from one of my charging stations, which brings me to an important topic. This channel is sponsored by Qmerit. Qmerit is the largest installer of electric vehicle charging equipment in North America. When it's time for you to have your charging station installed, call the pros at Qmerit because they know what they're doing. They follow all the codes. They make sure everything's done properly and safely so you don't have any problems with your EV charging equipment in the future. Now you can follow the link in the description of this video to get a free, no hassle estimate to install your charging equipment at your home. All right, so as I said, we're charging up now at my house, and I'm actually pulling energy directly from the 9 kilowatt solar array I have on the roof of my home that I installed about 12 years ago. I've been charging my EVs from it for the last 12 years, and the system's all paid off, so it's all gravy from here, and it really costs me next to nothing to drive my electric vehicles and power my house. But I understand many people don't have the opportunity to install solar on their roof. So when we talk about the cost to charge my Lightning, I'm going to exclude that. I'm going to talk about market rate electricity here where I live in New Jersey as if I didn't have the solar array. But I do urge people, if you do have the opportunity and you're getting EVs, take a look at solar, have some estimates, shop around because it's a fantastic combination, electric vehicle and solar electric. Besides the fact that you're driving completely zero emission vehicles when they're made from solar or electricity, it also is much less expensive. Even though charging at home is quite often the least expensive place to charge your EV, it's the most convenient, and it's usually the least expensive, which we're going to talk about right now. However, I do need to point out that depending on where you live, electricity rates vary greatly. So we're going to take a quick look at how much it costs in the different states And then we're going to talk about what I pay here in New Jersey, market rate electricity. Unlike gas, electricity rates are relatively stable throughout the year. However, also unlike gas, the rates vary greatly around the country. Now take a look at Hawaii. Hawaii has the most expensive average electricity rate. They pay like 40 cents per kilowatt hour. The national average, by the way, is 15 cents per kilowatt hour. Then take a look at the least expensive state to buy electricity. In North Dakota, the average person only pays 10 cents per kilowatt hour, a quarter of what people pay in Hawaii. Now let's take a look at what I pay compared to the electricity rates in the least expensive state and most expensive state in the country. Okay, so as I mentioned, I live in New Jersey, and where I live, my current electricity rate is 15 cents per kilowatt hour. So for me to fully charge my Lightning from dead to 100%, it costs me $20.10. Now, I do want to stress that people don't usually do that, charge their car from 0 to 100%. But for the purpose of explaining the cost, we're going to assume all the charging sessions are complete sessions from 0 to 100%. I also want to mention that I've also included charging losses in that calculation because there are charging losses that occur when you charge your EV. I've done plenty of 0 to 100% DC fast charging sessions now with my Lightning, and on average, it's needing 134 kilowatt hour to completely charge the vehicle from 0 to 100%, including charging losses. So that's the number I'm using throughout this video, 134 kilowatt hour to completely charge the Lightning. So if you take a look, I'm paying 15 cents per kilowatt hour. If you multiply that times 134, you're going to get $20.10. So the cost for me, if I were to charge my Lightning exclusively at home and drive it 10,000 miles a year, I would pay $628 for the entire year. If I drive 15,000 miles, it would be $942. 20,000 miles, that's a high mileage person, would be $1,256. And then I added this last column for 100,000 miles. That would represent, let's say, 5 years of driving 20,000 miles per year. It would cost me $6,281 total to drive 100,000 miles in my Lightning. Now, the last thing I need to explain about these figures and the figures moving forward is that I am using the EPA range rating for the extended range battery pack Lightning in Lariat trim, and that's 320 miles. Other versions of the Lightning have slightly different EPA range ratings. However, the overall efficiency of all the different trims of the Lightning are very close. There's slight differences, but not that much to make a huge difference in the cost. Now, in order to achieve 320 miles, the Lightning has to have a consumption rating of 2.44 miles per kilowatt hour. Now, of the first 2,700 miles that I've owned my Lightning, I've averaged 2.4 miles per kilowatt hour. The vehicle only shows you one place past the decimal point, but I've been bouncing between 2.5 and 2.4 the whole time. So I'm actually averaging what the EPA range rating is. Now, of course, when I go fast on the highway, it gets a little bit less, but that's my overall driving right now. I'm averaging 2.4 miles per kilowatt hour. And actually the last about 750 miles, I've averaged 2.6 miles per kilowatt hour because I haven't done a lot of highway driving. Now, I know in the winter, the range is going to be a little bit less, but there's a reason why I'm using EPA range rating to compare the cost here is because at the end of this video, I'm going to compare what it costs to charge the Lightning to what it costs to refuel a gasoline version of Ford's F-150. And I can only use the EPA miles per gallon for that. I don't have personal experience with a gas version of the Lightning, so I can't explain what my consumption and gas usage is going to be. So we're using EPA range ratings here just to be fair to both vehicles. Okay, now let's take a look at Hawaii, the most expensive state in the country. 40 cents per kilowatt hour. It's going to cost you $53.60 to fully charge your Lightning in Hawaii. To drive it 10,000 miles a year, $1,675. 15,000 miles is $2,513. 20,000 miles a year, you're paying $3,350. And a 5-year period, or the equivalent of 20,000 miles for 5 years at least, is going to cost you $16,750. Now we'll look at the least expensive state in the country, North Dakota, where you're only paying 10 cents per kilowatt hour. It'll only cost you $13.40 to fully charge your Lightning and drive it 320 miles. It'll cost you $419 to go 10,000 miles, $628 to go 15,000 miles, and only $838 to drive your pickup truck 20,000 miles a year. Over 100,000 miles, you would only pay $4,188 to fuel your truck. Now that's an amazing savings, but as we mentioned, it is the least expensive place in the country to charge, so most customers aren't going to experience electricity rates this inexpensive. Okay, so a little over $6,200 to charge my Lightning at home and drive it 100,000 miles. And that's if I was paying local electricity rates. In reality, it's going to cost me less than $1,000, maybe even less than $500 to drive it 100,000 miles. Now to put that into perspective, if this were a gasoline pickup truck that got 20 miles per gallon, I would have to pay $1.25 a gallon for gas in order for it to only cost $6,200 to drive 100,000 miles. But as I mentioned earlier, we're going to do a full analysis of that at the end of this video and really compare what it costs to charge the Lightning in a variety of ways versus a gasoline version. And since we're talking about variety of ways, we now have home charging costs covered. We're going to now talk about public charging. And quite honestly, when I started making this video and I started looking at the different ways you could charge your EV in public from the different networks and the different types of charging, I almost didn't do it because it is a bear. There's so many different networks that have so many different pricing structures in different states and different time of use, different levels of charging. There's slower level 2 charging, then there's DC fast charging. Honestly, I could have made a video that would have taken hours for you to watch, and I know nobody wants to watch that, and this is already going to be probably too long for some people. So what I did was I narrowed it down. I figured I would talk about the top 4 networks in the US, the 4 EV charging networks that have the most charging stations in the ground. And I'm really only going to talk about DC fast charging because the networks have different pricing for level 2 charging and DC fast charging. And most people with their Lightning, when they're charging in public, are going to use DC fast chargers. Now, there are instances where you would use level 2 charging if you're going to be there for a really long time, but most people on the road are going to use DC fast chargers. So we're going to focus on DC fast charging rates. And I wanted to talk about the ChargePoint network, Electrify America, EVgo, and Blink. There are other networks out there, but those are the biggest. The first thing I'm going to talk about is the ChargePoint network. And I'm not going to be offering pricing to explain how much the Lightning costs to charge on the ChargePoint network. And let me explain why. The ChargePoint network, unlike any of the other networks, doesn't have consistent pricing. ChargePoint doesn't own and operate the charging stations. They sell them to the site owners. The site owners then pay to install them and manage them. Now, ChargePoint manages the back end, the software that collects the money, and then they reimburse the site owner. But the site owner has complete control over what people pay to charge on their charging station. So there is no consistent pricing. It's impossible for me to even estimate what it would cost because the pricing is all over the map. There's some places on ChargePoint charging stations where it's free to charge your car. There's some places where it might cost $20 to completely charge the Lightning, and other places where it might cost over $100 because the owner sets the price, and some of the pricing is set at ridiculously high prices. And that's why I urge my followers to use apps like PlugShare, because those apps tell you what the charging station costs. So before you arrive, you know exactly how much it costs. There might be an instance where one ChargePoint charging station charges twice as much as another one does, and it's literally 1 block away. So make sure you use your apps and you know exactly what you're going to pay before you arrive at a ChargePoint charging station. Okay, so now let's take a look at the other 3 networks that have more consistent pricing, and we can really dive into what it'll cost you to charge on those networks. First up, let's talk about Electrify America. Electrify America is the largest network of ultra-high-speed DC fast charging stations in the United States. And Ford has partnered with Electrify America to provide 250 kilowatt hour of free charging for all F-150 Lightning owners. And with that 250 free kilowatt hour, you're going to get about 500 to 550 miles of free driving. So once that is expired, what are you going to pay? Well, it depends if you become a Pass member or just a Pass Plus member. A Pass member is just you sign up and you get an account and you're not paying any monthly fee. If you do that, you're going to be paying 43 cents per kilowatt hour. If you're a Pass Plus member, that gets dropped down to 31 cents per kilowatt hour, but you pay a monthly fee of $4. I'm a Pass Plus member, and that's what I pay. It's $4 a month, and then you pay only 31 cents per kilowatt hour. If you're going to charge your Lightning even just once a month on the Electrify America network, it pays to become a Pass Plus member because you do the math, you'll come out ahead even if you only charge once a month. Now, one thing I have to mention is not all states allow electric vehicle charging networks to charge by the kilowatt hour. Some states require the company to charge by the time they're there, which is not the right way to charge for charging electric vehicles, but that's written in the code that only utilities are allowed to charge for electricity. And in that case, you have to charge by time. So Electrify America charges this per kilowatt hour rate that I just mentioned, 31 cents per kilowatt hour for Pass Plus members, 43 cents per kilowatt hour for just regular members in 30 states. But in 20 states, some of which they don't have charging stations yet, they currently don't have per kilowatt hour pricing structure. It's by the time. So you have to check the state that you're in. Here in New Jersey, we charge per kilowatt hour, and that's why I pay 31 cents with my Pass Plus plan and $4 per month. If I drive over the state line to Pennsylvania, it becomes by the time. And there's not even a set rate when it comes to that. It depends on how much power the car takes in. So let's take a quick look at Electrify America's pricing plans so you'd see exactly what you would pay if you charged your Lightning in your state. Okay, so first go to the Electrify America site and click on the pricing icon on the top. From there, you can scroll down here and click whatever state you want. If I click on, say, Alabama, you can see the pricing is set up where it's by the minute. And now I'll scroll up to California, and you can see that it is, when it loads, pricing by the kilowatt hour. Now, as I mentioned earlier, in my state of New Jersey, it's also pricing by the kilowatt hour, which is what we're going to use when we calculate how much it costs me to charge my Lightning. Okay, so now let's take a look at what it would cost me if I were to charge my Lightning exclusively on the Electrify America network all year. Okay, so I'm an Electrify America Pass Plus member, as I mentioned earlier, but I'm still going to offer the cost if you weren't a member. If you were just a guest on the Electrify America network, what it would cost you to charge. And as you can see, it's 43 cents per kilowatt hour. So it would cost $61.43 to fully charge the Lightning here in New Jersey. Now I'm saying here in New Jersey because in New Jersey, we pay sales tax on the charging. And Electrify America adds it as a line item when you're done charging. The other networks must bundle it into the price because there isn't an additional line item for tax when I charge on EVgo or Blink. So it would be $61.43, and that's including tax. Now, if you were going to charge 10,000 miles a year as a guest on the Electrify America network, which you would never do, you would join and be a Pass Plus member, but I threw these numbers out there. It'd be $1,920, 15,000 miles, $28.79, 20,000 miles, $38.39. And if you charged for 100,000 miles as a guest and never joined and paid the membership fee, it'd be $19,200. Now, again, I just did this for a comparison. Nobody would do that. If people were going to use the Electrify America network regularly, they would join and become a Pass Plus member. Okay, so now let's take a look at the Electrify America Pass Plus account by kilowatt hour and by minute. It's 31 cents per kilowatt hour, and it costs me $44.29 to fully charge my Lightning. I've charged my Lightning a few times now from 0 to 100% on the Electrify America network. While it's never exactly that amount, it's always right around there. Now, if I charged for 10,000 miles exclusively on the network, it would cost me $1,432, and that includes the $4 a month fee. This is for 1 year of charging, so I'm adding $48 on each one of these totals here. If I went for 15,000 miles, it'd be $21.24. 20,000 miles, it would be $28.16. And if I charged for 5 years on the Electrify America network, it would cost me $14,080. Now again, that's including 5 years worth of $4 monthly fees. Now let's take a look at the by the minute charging. The Pass Plus account is 24 cents a minute. And one thing I have to explain here is I am using the 0 to 80% state of charge session for this by the minute. And that's because after the Lightning reaches 80% state of charge, the charging slows down dramatically. And you'd end up paying a lot more money if you stayed on the charger past that point. Now, most people unplug at 80%, and that's why I'm using 80% as my stopping point for the per minute charging. And that's how I'd charge my Lightning if I had to charge on a by the minute Electrify America charging station. And this video is about what it cost me to charge my Lightning. And I urge all of my followers, if you are charging on a network that charges by the minute, don't stay plugged in past 80% state of charge unless you absolutely need that additional range, because you're going to be paying a lot more per kilowatt hour because the charging slows down so much. Okay, so it costs 24 cents per minute. And the cost to charge the Lightning from 0 to 80% is only $12.96. That's because the Lightning maintains a very high charge rate up until about 80% state of charge. If you were to continue charging to 100%, you'd be paying a lot more money and not getting a lot more energy. Now, the cost to charge 10,000 miles would be $554. 15,000 miles, $807. 20,000 miles, $1,061. And the cost to charge an F-150 Lightning on an Electrify America DC fast charging station that charges by the minute for 100,000 miles of driving is only $5,305. Now, it's that inexpensive because of the fact that the Lightning holds such a high charging rate up to about 80% state of charge. If you were to continue charging all the time up to 100%, this number could double. It could be more than $10,000. So if you do use DC fast chargers that charge by the minute, please do yourself a favor and unplug at 80%, or you're going to be wasting a lot of money. After the Electrify America network, the next largest network of DC fast chargers in the US is EVgo. Now, one of the differences between Electrify America and EVgo is the majority of EVgo charging stations are lower powered than the Electrify America stations. They're limited to 50 kilowatt. Now, this station here that I'm at in New Jersey can actually deliver 80 kilowatt to the Lightning, so it's a little bit better. And EVgo is now starting to install ultra high speed DC fast chargers, 150 kilowatt, 350 kilowatt. Those are the ones you really want to find with your Lightning. And there's a reason why I'm mentioning this charging power more so than the fact that it'll just take you a longer time to charge. It's because EVgo across the country, except for in California, they don't charge by the kilowatt hour. In all of the other states, they charge by the minute. So if you're charging for 1 minute on a 50 kilowatt station versus a 150 kilowatt station, you're going to get like 3 times less power, but you're going to pay the same amount. So it's kind of unfair, but that's how their pricing is set right now. So let's talk a little bit about what it would cost me to charge here in New Jersey. Now in New Jersey, I have 3 different pricing options. Option 1 is non-member option, and that's pay as you go. I can pull up to the station, pull out a credit card, and use the station. For that, I pay 35 cents per minute of charging. Then there is the EVgo member, where you pay 31 cents per minute, so 4 cents per minute savings. However, you have to pay $4.99 a month to be a member. But that $4.99 is credited to your first charging session. So you get the money back as long as you use the station at least once a month. Now at the end of the month, you're paying another $4.99. So if you haven't used it in that given 30 days or whatever the paying period is, you're gonna lose your $4.99. So you wanna make sure you charge at least once a month so you get that credit back. Then they have a premium plan, EVgo Plus, where you pay 28 cents per minute. But But for that, you have to pay $6.99 a month, and that money is not credited back to your account. You're paying $7 a month just to have this discounted rate of 28 cents per minute. Now, if you use the network more than once or twice a month, and you do the math, it's gonna pay off. So if you use EVgo network a lot, it would pay off to have their premium membership plan. Now let's take a quick look at what it would cost me to charge my Lightning here in New Jersey exclusively on the EVgo network all year. Okay, so here in New Jersey, EVgo uses the pay-by-minute plan, as they do in every other state of the country except for California. And as I mentioned, there's 3 different plans: pay-as-you-go, EVgo member, and EVgo Plus member, all of which have different costs per minute. Now, I'm not going to go over every single price here because there's nearly 60 boxes of different prices. But what I want you to pay attention to is take a look at the difference between charging at 50 kilowatt stations and 350 kilowatt stations in each of the 3 memberships. Now, you're paying the same amount per minute and you're getting the same amount of energy charging from 0 to 80%. But look at the price difference on the pay-as-you-go plan, which again, nobody would do this and charge for 100,000 miles without a membership. They would use the EVgo Plus if they were going to charge a lot on EVgo network. But just take a look at the difference, what it would be. Almost $18,000 compared to $7,383 to get the same amount of energy. See, that's where pricing by the minute really is unfair. Now, the one thing that's good about it is the Lightning can accept a lot of power. From 0 to up to 80% state of charge, it averages about 120 kilowatt of power intake, and that's higher than most electric vehicles. So if you're charging on a 350 kilowatt DC fast charger, you're going to get a lot of bang for your buck. And that's what you can see here on the lines that have the 350 kilowatt DC fast chargers. The price is relatively affordable. I mean, even on the pay-as-you-go plan, it's only $7,300 to charge for 100,000 miles. That's really cheap. But take a look down at the EVgo Plus plan. Now, if somebody was going to be using the EVgo network to power their vehicle for 100,000 miles exclusively, they would have EVgo Plus for sure. They're only paying $6,300. That's an amazingly low amount of money for that amount of charging. Now, again, here, as I did with Electrify America, this is the cost to charge from 0 to 80%. If you were to charge from 0 to 100%, all of those numbers would be double or more than double actually, because it actually takes longer to charge the Lightning from 80% to 100% than it does to charge it from 0 to 80%. And that's why I did all of these pay by the minute plans as stopping at 80%, because I would stop at 80% and I urge all my followers to. So take a look at these numbers. You could take a screenshot. You could stop the video here if you want. I'm not going to go over all of them, but at the end of this video, I'm going to put everything together on one sheet so we can compare all the different networks to the cost of charging at home. And one more thing I'd like to add about EVgo. I recently had the opportunity to interview Jonathan Levy, the Chief Commercial Officer for EVgo, on the Inside EVs podcast. We talked a lot about pricing, and Jonathan admitted that he understands the industry is moving towards kilowatt-hour based pricing, and without committing to it, it sounded like he was getting ready to transition the company to charge by kilowatt hour for most of the country, as most of the other networks do. And he also indicated that they're going to be installing ultra high speed DC fast chargers moving forward, 150 kilowatt, 350 kilowatt, and that's good because, as you can see, the price really comes down when you're charging at a higher rate of speed. Plus, nobody wants to be hanging out a DC fast charger for any longer than they absolutely have to, especially when they're on a road trip and have somewhere to go. Most of the legacy EVgo stations are 50 kilowatt, and that's a problem because you're going to pay a lot more if you have to charge on a 50 kilowatt EVgo station compared to one that's higher powered.
And then there's the Blink network. Now, Blink offers a variety of ways that site owners can partner with Blink to put charging equipment on their property. One way is that Blink will come in, pay for everything, install the charging station, pull the permits, do everything, and then they own and manage the charging station, and they set the rates. In that case, they set the rates according to what Blink charges in this area. In this instance, however, this property owner, it's at a hotel, purchased the charging station, had Blink install it, so they own it outright, and they're charging 42 cents per kilowatt hour. So it costs me $56.28 to completely fill the battery of my F-150 Lightning. Okay, so since this is the only Blink DC fast charger anywhere near where I live, I'm going to go by what it cost here to charge because this is the one I'd be using. As I mentioned, they charge 42 cents per kilowatt hour. So the cost to charge my Lightning completely from 0 to 100% would be $56.28. If I were to charge exclusively on this charging station and I drove 10,000 miles a year, it would cost me $1,759. If I drove 15,000 miles a year, it would be $26.38. 20,000 miles a year, it would be $35.18, and it would cost me $17,559 to charge here exclusively and drive my Lightning 100,000 miles. So if you want to know what Blink charges in your area, you can go to the Blink website and click on charging rates, and there's a map. You click on your state. I did it for New Jersey, and it showed that the DC fast charging rates in New Jersey were $6.99 per session and $9.99 per session for guests. Now, I know that's not right because I've charged on Blink before, so I actually called Blink and asked them about it, and they said the DC fast charger that was located by my house, there's not a lot of DC fast chargers on the Blink network near my area, but the one I usually go to, they told me it's 42 cents per minute, whether I was a member or a guest. And they said typically members pay less, but since this station was owned by the property owner, they chose not to give members a discounted rate. So I'll pay 42 cents per kilowatt hour when I charge there. If you're interested in finding out what you charge, go to the website, click on your state, and quite honestly, I think it's best to just call them up because I don't think all of the information on the Blink website is actually correct. So as I said in the beginning, this isn't simple. Well, it is simple if you just charge at home, but if you're relying on public charging networks, there's so many different networks, there's so many different pricing plans, it can really make a huge difference in what you're paying to charge your Lightning if you don't understand all the different plans. Now, luckily, most people are not going to use public charging networks to charge all the time. You'll use it on long road trips a couple of times a year, maybe once a month at most. I've been driving electric vehicles now for 13 years, and I've probably driven about 350,000 miles. Now, I use DC fast chargers a lot because it's my job. I use them to record the charging sessions and to explain charging to people. But for my own personal use, I don't use DC fast chargers more than maybe 7 or 8 times a year. So that's really probably what the average person is going to use it for. And in that case, the difference in price isn't going to make that much of a difference. It makes a big difference if you're relying on it for your daily charging, but not too many people are going to be doing that. So now let's take a look at all of the numbers that we just put together, all the relevant numbers, I'm going to say, on one piece of paper so we can compare what it would cost over time to charge the Lightning on these different ways. And then we're going to compare it to what it would cost to fuel a gasoline-powered Ford F-150. Alrighty, now let's take a look at everything compared side by side. Now you will notice that I'm using the best pricing plan for the charging networks because if somebody were to be using a network exclusively to charge their vehicle, they'd obviously sign up for the most advantageous payment plan that you could get. So that's what we're using here. And we're actually going to just take a look at the cost to drive 100,000 miles. There's no need to look at everything here, but I put it up there in case somebody wanted to take a screenshot and really take a deep dive into the numbers. So charging at home in New Jersey, it's going to cost me $6,281 to charge my F-150 Lightning and drive it 100,000 miles. Now, if I lived in Hawaii, that same amount of driving would cost me $16,750. Now, as we mentioned earlier, that is the most expensive place for electricity in the country. But I will note that in many areas of the country, they have time of use electricity plans. So you're not going to necessarily pay this top rate. What you do is you sign up for a time of use electricity plan, and then you charge your vehicle during off-peak hours, which is typically overnight, and you pay a dramatically reduced cost. I have friends that live in California that pay over 30 cents per kilowatt hour for their electricity during peak hours, but overnight they pay under 10 cents a kilowatt hour. So even if you live in an area that has very expensive electricity, if you sign up for a time of use electricity plan, you'll end up paying a lot less than what the regular rate is. But again, There's an endless amount of ways we could have broken this down, and I just went with the average electricity price for individual states. You need to do your research and your homework to get the best electricity cost in the area you live in. Okay, so now let's take a look at North Dakota, the least expensive state for the average cost of electricity, which is only about 10 cents a kilowatt hour. That's ridiculously low. You can drive a Ford F-150 Lightning, charge it at home, and drive 100,000 miles and only pay $4,188. That's crazy for 100,000 miles of driving. Now, if you go to the Electrify America charging network, if you use your Pass Plus account and you're in a state where you pay by kilowatt hour like I am here in New Jersey, it would cost me $14,080 to drive 100,000 miles. Now, obviously, I wouldn't elect to do that unless I couldn't charge at home or at work, because as you can see, it's significantly more than what it cost me to charge at home. Now, if I lived in a state that had the pay by minute Pass Plus account, look at how much less expensive it is. It's $5,305, much less expensive, and that's because the Lightning charges at a very high rate. If this was a different electric vehicle, say like a Chevy Bolt EV, which has a very low DC fast charge rate, that number would be more than twice as much. It all depends on how fast your EV can pull those kilowatt hour into the battery pack. Now take a look at the Blink network. Blink network here is the most expensive way to charge your EV, $17,559. If you go to the EVgo network, I listed 50 kilowatt, 80 kilowatt, and 350 kilowatt only because the vast majority of EVgo network is 50 kilowatt currently. And take a look at how expensive it would be if you had to charge on a 50 kilowatt DC fast charger. It would be $14,638. If you charged at the 80 kilowatt station that I shot this video at, it would be $9,170. And if you can find one of the few EVgo 350 kilowatt DC fast chargers out there, it drops down to $6,326. EVgo really needs to change their pricing structure to charge by kilowatt hour, and I believe they're going to at some point in the near future. Now let's take a look at how much it costs to fuel a conventional Ford F-150 with a combustion engine. I listed two different vehicles here. One that gets the best gas mileage, that's a 2022 Ford F-150 hybrid all-wheel drive, and you had to have all-wheel drive also. The two-wheel drives get a little bit better gas mileage, but since the Lightning is all-wheel drive, I wanted to make an apples-to-apples comparison. And then to really make an apples-to-apples comparison, I listed a 2022 Ford Raptor, because honestly, the Lightning is the best performing F-150 that there is. It'll even beat a Raptor in a drag race. So I had to list that there because that's really the most fair comparison head to head with the Lightning. So the F-150 hybrid gets 24 miles per gallon combined. I listed gas at two different price points, $3 a gallon and $4 a gallon. I know gas is at $4 a gallon now, but it's exceptionally high these days. We don't really know what it's going to lower to, when it's going to lower. I mean, gas does that. It goes up really high, then it drops down, then it goes back up. Electricity prices are much more stable. They don't do that. They gradually go up over time, but they don't go up and down like gas does. So if you had the F-150 hybrid and you drove 100,000 miles and gas stayed at $3 a gallon, or at least average $3 a gallon over that time frame, you would pay $12,500 to fuel your vehicle. In most instances, it's more expensive than charging the F-150 Lightning. There are a few exceptions. If you were to charge on EVgo network at 50 kilowatt stations, if you use the Blink network exclusively, if you used your Pass Plus on Electrify America, it would be a little bit more too. And also if you were charging in Hawaii, it would cost you a little bit more. But now we'll take a look. When you go up to $4 a gallon, it jumps up to $16,667. And in that case, it's pretty much exactly the same cost to fuel the F-150 Lightning in Hawaii for 100,000 miles. That's interesting. And a little bit less than it would cost on the Blink network. But in all other instances, the Lightning would cost less to fuel. Now we'll take a look at the real head-to-head competitor, the Raptor. It would cost you $20,000 to fuel a Raptor at $3 a gallon average price, because the Raptor has an EPA combined fuel economy rating of 15 miles per gallon. If you jump up to $4 a gallon, which is what we are currently at now, it would cost you $26,667. So basically, here in New Jersey, it's going to cost me $6,281 to charge my F-150 Lightning at home and drive it 100,000 miles. If I had a Raptor here in New Jersey and it averaged $4 a gallon over that same time frame, it would cost me more than $20,000 more to fuel my vehicle for 100,000 miles of driving. I think this really demonstrates just how much less expensive electric vehicles are to run. Now, I know some of these prices here cost even more than what it costs to fuel the gasoline versions, but I want to stress that very, very few people will actually use public charging networks exclusively to charge their vehicles. I mean, extremely small percentage of people would do that. The vast majority of people use these public charging networks when they need to, when they're on a road trip, if they're taking a very long drive, or if they just need to really quickly recharge their vehicle for whatever reason. They could shoot over to a DC fast charger, spend a half an hour, 40 minutes there, and they're up to 80% charged. But very few people are actually going to rely on these networks entirely for their charging. But I wanted to at least put these numbers out there so you could see exactly how much it would cost if you were to do that.
Well, that's it for the how much does it cost to charge the Ford F-150 Lightning video. We know this was a deep dive and we covered a lot of information, but as you can see, there's so many different ways to charge the Lightning, and the cost varies a lot depending on where you charge it and how you charge it. We wanted to cover as many bases as we could. Listen, if it's your first time here on State of Charge, please don't forget, click that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you don't miss any upcoming Ford F-150 Lightning and other electric vehicle news and reviews. And thanks for watching.